Hello, welcome to another episode of Everyday Amazing. I am your host, Guy Alton, and tonight I have another special guest for you all. I have Mr. James Van Buren, better known as Mr. V. Don't go anywhere, you don't want to miss this episode.
Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton. Everyday Amazing. Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Welcome back to the show. As always, I am striving to bring you guys some of the most amazing people from around Sacramento, and tonight is no different. If you don't know him, you're going to know him after this episode. I have Mr. V with us. How are you doing, Mr. V?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not bad, man. I'm excited to have you on the show tonight. And before we get into about you, I'm going to tell the people how I met you. So I was actually hosting Game of the Week, which is our sports show on XX Sacramento, and I remember seeing Grant. It was Grant High versus I don't recall which school they were playing against, but it was a basketball season, and I remember Grant High bringing in this Drumline, right? And I did many games before that, and every school always had a band, but never a Drumline, right? And I didn't know much about you guys, and so when you guys came out and you guys started playing, man, you had the whole, auditorium, jumping and moving, and, it just really got me. I felt like I was at a party. Like I was watching the game, but I felt good, And
That's the ideal.
So with that in mind, tell me a little bit about how the Drumline came to be.
I was a math teacher, new math teacher in 2007. I came to Granite. Mm-hmm. And I've always had music in my life. I've always played music. I did it professionally. I lived in London. I lived abroad. I put out records. I had a couple of records out with the guys from O'Brien who were signed to Capitol Records under Don Cornelius. But anyhow, I always had music in my life, so I had a big set of drums in my classroom, mm-hmm. And at lunchtime, students would come in, and they would always want, can I get on drums, can I get on drums? And I said, yes. So literally what would happen is it went from can I get on the drums, can I get on the mic, because I'd pull out a mic, and can I get on, and before you knew it, lunch sessions were about rap sessions, and we would just play. And at that time, Grant had a beast of a football team, mm-hmm. And they were going down to Southern California, and they took the state championship. And while down there, there was this teacher, the principal's, her name was Kim Davis. She goes, you know what? We're down here, and we don't have a band or nothing. There is a new teacher who every day, all the students go in there, even the football players go in there at lunch. We should see if he would start a drum line, because he got a drum set. So they were at a principal retreat, and she called me on my phone, mm-hmm. And she said, Mr. V. I said, yeah. She goes, I'd like to know if you would start a drum line. And I go, what would that look like? Mm-hmm. She goes, it would look like the same thing that you do in your classroom, but we would do it in the football stand at games. Mm. Now, no one ever knew that with that phone call, what would transpire, not even myself, but it took off. Mm.
So when you say it took off, what were some of the challenges starting out? Because I understand a lot of the students who first joined your Drumline, let's just say they deal with their own set of challenges, right? I understand a lot of your Drumline students come from socially, economically challenged areas and neighborhoods, mm-hmm. right? So for you, or for this Drumline, this is almost like an escape and a getaway from some of the things that they deal with in their neighborhood and maybe at home.
Let's just say my drummers were gangbangers. Let's just keep it real.
Keep it real, all right.
Man,
there with the color flags.
A lot of them had ankle monitors on.
Okay.
A lot of them had probation officers. Many of them were not passing. They had Fs and stuff like that, but they had a passion for music. And with all of us, I'm a true believer that when we get the opportunity to show ourselves, you can take me in a negative manner or you can take me in a positive manner, how you want it, because it's going to be seen. But when we give people, human beings, that opportunity, they will always choose the positive because they know that they're not going to get in trouble, but they still get the recognition for that. So we would end up there. I told them they were going to be on Drumline. I said, but before you can do any of that, a lot of those behaviors that you're doing, like acting crazy in the hall, being out of the classroom, fighting and stuff, you can't be on my drum line if that's going to happen because we're going to be playing at the football games. Many of you want to be on the football team, but you can't because you have Fs.
Right.
Many of you want to be in there. So the next best thing is to be on this drum line, playing for your partners, seeing them, and they're seeing you, and you are complimenting each other. So with that said, we would practice Monday through Friday, immediately after school at 12 o'clock at night. I would feed them, and ultimately what ended up happening, a lot of those students who were not going to graduate, they ended up doing, because they were doing extra credits and they were doing things, they ended up, yes, graduating, getting their credits. They ended up taking summer school classes. Yes, they had D's and stuff, but the bigger picture is many of them graduated, many of them changed the way they behaved, and for the first time they were able to show themselves in a positive way.
light.
Now, once that happened, I started getting phone calls from around the city. Kevin Johnson was at, what really took off, Kevin Johnson was the mayor at that time, and he had asked me to do something. At the same time, we were doing the census, and a woman asked me if I would bring my drum line. She knew of my drum line. And I said, sure. And Kevin Johnson was at that event. That event made the newspaper. And from that making the newspaper, guys got to see themselves. From there, then we started getting invited out by Sacramento News and Review. Sacramento News and Review then asked us to do a thing called the Jammies. It is a classical event with the Sacramento Philharmonic, and it's a classical event. At the same time, a guy named Thomas Kenneth from Carnegie Hall came. There was all these things that was coming in. You know, I'm a true believer that things happen at a time that will live here, and you can there's missed opportunities and there's opportunities that avail yourself to you, and all those opportunities were coming at the time that my drumming, the behaviors were extinguishing, the drummers were playing, they were becoming proficient on their craft and stuff like that, and each time all gigs beget another one. And so we ended up doing the Sacramento Jammies, and there was this woman. Her name was Jennifer Perrone, and let me backtrack, because just so much was happening at that. So we did the Jammies, and I ended up being on the cover of the California CTA magazine. At the same time, I ended up being on the cover of Sacramento News and Review, and at the same time, the House Representative Doris Matsui had called and asked me to register to play for President Barack Obama's inauguration. It was just all these things just was coming, and the drum line was growing. Things were changing, transitioning. I didn't have, majority of my drummers had either graduated. There was a new breed of students coming in. Grades were higher, and so this woman saw, Doris Matsui asked me, and I said yes. And we filled out, we didn't get it. It was just like crazy. We were over and over, we did it again, we registered again, and by the time we got that, they told us and said, thank you so much, but the competition was extremely high, very competitive. They were overwhelmed. The system was overwhelmed. And they said, it was like a Dear John letter. And I was really upset at that time. And so when I got another call again, and I passed on it. And then I went into this meeting. And I had talked about, hey, I just got offered to play at the 2015 National Independence Day in Washington, D.C., and I turned it down. And they go, what? They go, we have been doing this for over 30 years and never received any requests like that. You've had 2 requests, and you turned that down? If I was you, I would take them up on that. So I left, and I said, wow, 30 years and never once? So I go back, I pick up the phone, and I call, and I said, is it too late to register? She goes, you have 24 hours. I get together. I had this great guy that helped me out with the audios and the videos, send it in, and we ended up getting it. So then I had to raise $100,000.
So, okay, we're going to talk more about that, but something that really stands out to me that I got to know is the parents. How was this received, right? Now, I'm talking about before you started to get the attention, you started to get the recognition, like when the program first started and you're starting to see a change in the kids, right? Their grades are starting to come up, they're doing some sort of extra. What was some of the feedback that the parents were giving you? Because I know for them, this, you probably seem like one of the best teachers to ever, ever step into that school, just because like you were actually making an impact. A lot of times parents feel like, schools don't do enough and teachers don't do enough, right? And the actual reality is there's a lot of factors that go into why like a kid could be failing, right? And here you are, this, new band director of this program, or not band, sorry, drumline director of this program, and you're having such an impact on these kids. Maybe so much that like, the teachers before you weren't having this impact, right? So I just want to know, what was the general consensus from the parents? And did they come to you personally to thank you, or, I just want to know, like, what was the feedback?
I have to be quite honest. At that time, a lot of the parents were not really into my drummer's life. It was like my drummers were raising themselves. It didn't really start getting there until we start getting national notice. And then it became, like the first time their parents got involved is when we went down to Hollywood. All of a sudden, kids are not going to be home and they don't have immediate access. Then I might have got, what's going on? Why are you guys going to Hollywood? But initially, when we were fighting through the first, from 2007 all the way up to, I'd say, 2014, I pretty much it was just me and kids. I'd get a group of kids that come in as freshmen, and I would take them all, literally, I would take them all home, drop them off. I would meet some of their parents, but for the most part, I really weren't meeting the parents. The parents would come to the game, their parents were here, but literally, I'm telling you, there was not a lot of parent involvement. There was
Really?
Yeah,
So
parents weren't, I didn't have no parents. I didn't have no parents driving kids to gigs. I didn't have no parents come picking up kids. I didn't have no parents coming to their gigs. I'm trying to tell you this. It was like I was dad. Now, today, that's a whole different scene.
Right.
But back there in those years when we were playing at state fairs, let me tell you what would happen. If we had a gig at the state fair, I would do this. I would tell all my drummers, I'd take one drummer, I said, get in my car. The drummer would get in my car, we'd fill it up with drums, and we'd take it to this Cow Expo. I would leave that drummer at Cow Expo with the drums. I would come back, I would get all the drummers, but a couple of there, I would take those drummers back. Then I would come back. Then we'd put the rest of the drums in the car, and then we'd all go to the gig at Cow Expo.
Right.
There were no parents at Cow Expo.
Wow.
There were no parents at those gigs. Kids raising kids. You need to understand that. I'm trying to tell you.
Man.
That is not what's happening today. But I'm just telling you, back
then,
then this is how it was. I had kids raising kids. Now, every once in a while, if we were at a football game, a parent would come up and say, I really like what you were doing. I would have a lot of OGs say, man, I wish you were around. It was actually more of adults who were in a neighborhood that were seeing what we're doing and saying, look, I like what you're doing. You're doing good. You're keeping our kids out of the street. I like that. But I didn't have no parent pick up the phone and say, hey, thank you for doing what you're doing for my kids. You're keeping me out of the street. That didn't happen.
See, that's a really important point, and we're going to touch more on that. But before we just hold that thought, before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back after these messages with more Mr. V.
Everyday amazing with Sky Alton.
What's up, y'all? It's your man, Lance Woods. I'm here on Everyday Amazing with my boy, Sky Alton. Y'all make sure y'all pull up and enjoy the show. And not just this show, every show. Every time you see Everyday Amazing, it's going to be amazing every day. Or they couldn't call it that. Duh.
Everyday amazing with Sky Alton.
Welcome back to the show. I'm still here with Mr. V. Now, before we went to break, we were talking about parent support and how it was in the early days. And you were talking about all the work you did and all the effort you put in to make this successful and to really make an impact in these kids' lives. So then my next biggest question that really just stands out to me is why? Like everyone who hears that story is gonna say, man, you went above and beyond, right? And not a lot of people will do that, you know? And so for you to spend so much of your time to make sure that these kids had a different experience than what was going on at home, I just want to know, like, what was your general feelings and thoughts about why you did what you did and continue to do what you do?
You know, I think all of us that have a passion about what we do, we don't look for the accolades or people to pat us on the back. We do it because that's our passion. And it's a calling. And you know it. And you don't have to be told to do it. You just do it. It's innate. It's in us. And you're driven. And at that time, I was driven by what it did and what I was doing. And I was loving it. I was in reality, I was getting something out of it too, because I was seeing I was having success. And so that ultimately what continued to keep me on the path that I was doing. And I saw that my students were no longer fighting and the grades were coming up. And we were just getting all these calls and everything. And I don't think, if I look back at it right now, I would have to say, I don't think the parents really understood what was going on. I think their kids would go home and say, oh, Mom, I'm doing this. Oh, Dad, I'm doing this. Oh, Aunt, I'm doing this. And they said, that's nice. And it was just a program. As a matter of fact, even at the school, they didn't realize what an impact we were having, because we were like it was an after school program to keep kids out of trouble. And that's what we did. We were in our own little shell. I mean, there was football and there's pacerettes and there's basketball. And when football would be over, my drummer would say, oh, what we're going to do? We're going to do basketball. When basketball was over, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to do the state fair. Oh, we're going to do the DMV. So we all were just in this doing a gig, but no one really knew what we were doing. They didn't understand that we were actually getting gigs and we were playing everywhere, and we were starting to make money and building our ASB, making money, and no one really understood the direction. I didn't even understand. Here's when I knew that it was huge. When I got a call from a woman named Jennifer Perone, and she said, I'm with Rockin' Robin, I would like to come out and do a blog on you. And I said, what's a blog? And she goes, oh, we just write a short story on you, but we've heard about you and we'd like to come out. Still wasn't clued in. So I said, let me type in Rockin' Robin. And I typed in Rockin' Robin on Google, and it said Robin Roberts from Good Day America. And I said, whoa, this could be big.
Well, speaking of that, I do want to show the audience out there a little bit of your drumline in action. And with that being said, we do have a video, and I just want to give them a taste of what you guys do today, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to show that, and we'll talk about it after the video.
Okay.
Where is it? What city is this in?
This is last week. We
Really?
were
Okay.
in Times Square.
All right.
Now, prior to Times Square, we had just finished doing a gig in Central Park. We had an hour-long gig in Central Park. Then we left there, we went out to eat, and then we went and saw the play on Broadway, The Wiz. After seeing The Wiz, we went promptly to our rooms, we changed, grabbed our drums, and we went out to Times Square, and we rocked it. And the crowd was crazy, the drummers. Those drummers, I want you to say, and when I tell you about this, all those parents, today I have 100% parent involvement. And what I mean by that, parents want to know, I have 3/4 of my drumline are girls, number one. Everyone has 3.0 grade point average. 3 of my drummers are enrolled in college and high school, so when they graduate, they will have a high school diploma and an associate's degree. The highest person is a 4.7, wants to be a physicist, and they all love music. And when you start taking kids out of the country, like last year we were in London and France, parents want to know what's happening. And these kids, now the parents are totally involved. They're not involved to the point where they stop them, but they definitely want to know schedules. They definitely want to know where we're going to go. They want an itinerary, and they're constantly calling. So it's a total different group of parents.
You know what's so amazing about just your journey and your story is that, again, you do it because you're passionate about it, and I truly believe you're doing what you're supposed to be doing because, again, when you first started out, you didn't have a lot of parent support. I think that stands out the most to me because back when I was in school, the after-school programs, we had a few of them, but no one was going above and beyond. Like, if you couldn't make it to an after-school program, they weren't coming to pick you up. They weren't dropping you off, you know? And so the fact that you were giving so much to these kids and really, trying to make a positive impact in their life, I think that's huge, and I think it really goes underrated by, a lot of people. I feel like, and when I say by that is, a lot of people talk about how things could be and how things should be, right? Mm-hmm. But people only want to get involved a lot of times when something is already up and running,
Exactly.
And with you, you built it from the ground up. And like I said earlier, when I asked you why you did it, your answer, I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed seeing the success, right? Seeing kids actually change their grades, seeing kids actually change their behavior, right? And so I just think that's one of the most amazing things you can do for somebody is leave a positive change on their life, right? I always tell people that your legacy is not so much defined by the things that you've done, but more so defined by the impact you will have on other people's lives, right?
I agree.
And so for someone like you, man, I think there's gonna come a day where I'm gonna hear about a whole bunch of other students talk about the work that you did, and they wouldn't be in the situations had it not been for you actually caring. And going above and beyond. So I just want to thank you again for, coming on the show and just sharing your story. I know you will continue to do the work that you're doing, and I hope everyone out there, really takes the time to check out your work and check out your websites and everything like that. But before we give out your socials, there's a game that I like to play where I have my guests sometimes pull a card and they answer whatever question they get from this card. And you, my friend, are no different, and I hope that you pull a really good card because I know that the answer is going to be very, deep and inspiring. So,
Any card?
any card. All right, so you'll read it and then you'll answer it.
What's your favorite part of your house?
Well, they're not always all super deep or whatever, so, but yeah, I mean,
It depends on the mood, but I would have to say, I have a studio in my house.
Okay, that sounds about right. That sounds like it should be the favorite part.
Definitely, if I'm not playing sax or flute or drums or bass, I'm down there doing something. So that would probably be my favorite part of the house.
Doing the work you love to do. I like that. Well, thank you again, Mr. V, for coming on the show, like I said, and tell the people where they can check you out and where they can learn more about you.
Okay. If you want to support what I'm doing, it would be nice if you would go to Grant Drumline Music Association. That is my 501c3, and the reason why it's really important because that 501c3 allows me to take kids all over the world. I've taken kids to Japan. I've taken kids to South Africa. Last year we were in London and France. This year we're in Washington, D.C. and New York. Next year our plan will be in Sydney, Australia. I want everyone to understand when I talk about my kids going from Fs to having 4.0s, when I talk about that, you have to understand that 501c3 pays 100% of all the funds. The parents do not have to pay 1 cent. So if you like what I'm doing, you want to keep kids out of gangs, you want to keep kids doing what is positive, please go to Grant Drumline Music Association and support us.
Thank you again. And to the audience out there, thank you for all your support. Again, I am always striving to bring you guys amazing people from all around Sacramento, and tonight was no different. Again, I hope you guys support Mr. V. Until next time, I'll see you then.
Amazing with Sky Alton. Every day amazing. Every day amazing with Sky Alton. Every day amazing. Every day amazing with Sky Alton.